Yeah, I'm stuck. Um, I've been practicing art for like 2 years now, and this is probably the most aimless and helpless I think I've ever felt these past 2 years. However, this isn't gonna be like a very negative video about feet. This is really just a message to me for future me. Alright, so 2025 is at the halfway point, and I've noticed I have not made a single video. I've made probably like 2, 3 videos, and that was all towards the beginning of the year. It's now September, we gotta lock in. This upload is now gonna mark the start of my YouTube journey. Like, I really gotta start putting in the effort and stop fooling around, making all these excuses for myself. Got about 6 more months. Okay, not 6 months, I can't count. Whatever, we got some months left. I can still upload. Let's get this done. Now, as I said, this is the start of the journey. However, we got to do a little backstory. So I'm gonna give you a little bit of backstory about me. You know, as a young kid, I was always interested in art. In kindergarten, I always used to draw. You know, kids used to ask if you could draw stuff, and you know, they would ask, and sometimes I would, depending on how I felt, but most times I'd be like, yeah, and then I just didn't do it. So yeah, elementary school, I drew a lot, and then towards middle school, I started drawing less and less. I knew I drew some like video game characters from certain games I liked. Like, anyways, around middle school, I kind of stopped. It wasn't though until one day I went in the living room and my dad changed my life. See, what was a big inspiration for me to start following my new dreams, my new goals, was anime. I came home one day, I was in my room watching Corey Kenshin and any other YouTubers I used to watch back then. And eventually, I was like bored, so I went to see what my dad was doing. When I came to the living room, he was watching Dragon Ball Super. So when I was just curious, I started watching with it. He started explaining me certain things like lore. I knew who Goku was, like I've seen him before, but I didn't know much about anime. The only things I knew was like Goku, Dragon Ball, maybe Vegeta, and then I knew of Naruto because my dad used to watch that when I was a kid. So I started watching that, and at first I didn't really care, but you know, something about it kind of had a charm to it. And soon before you know it, I was hooked. Now, after Dragon Ball, another day happened. We're in the living room. My dad was watching Naruto. I guess he was just rewatching it. I believe he was around the Chunin exams arc, and I started watching it, I saw him fighting Neji. I was like, oh, this is cool, but whatever, right? Then my dad was like, oh, really? You don't like it? I was like, I don't know. He just kind of seems like a copy of Goku. So he put the first episode on, and I didn't want to watch it, but he practically forced me to, and I'm glad he did, because the first episode was great. That was so entertaining when I first watched it. I was like, wow, but I still wasn't really hooked on it.
What?
It wasn't until, and I know people are going to be very mad at my watch order, but it wasn't until he was watching the Tsunade arc when they were trying to retrieve her, and I was like watching that, I was like, oh, okay, so I started watching that there with him, and I watched it by myself because he kept on going to sleep, you know, early, or at least early for a teenager. And so I started watching that. I saw that first Rasengan, and I was like, wow. So then I kept on watching from there. And eventually I got to the Sasuke Naruto finale, finished that, and I watched Shippuden. And from there, it was history. Now I learned a lot, like, after Naruto, I started watching Hero, Bleach, Black Clover, Attack on Titan, Hunter x Hunter, I don't know why I said the X, and so many more anime, as many as you can imagine. And then came high school, trying to figure out what you're gonna do with your life, or maybe not. Some people are just like, I just want to pass, go to college. But I had the big 3 A's during my childhood. I had artist, actor, and I had architect. Growing up being viewed as an artist made me think I wanted a job as an artist, but I never really knew what to do. I thought, okay, architect, because they draw and they can make landscapes and buildings and stuff. That'd be cool, that'd be a very notable job. And then I thought actor, I don't know why, honestly. But it wasn't until around senior, junior year of high school that I started thinking, what if I start learning how to draw again? Because as a kid, I used to watch drawing videos from certain people like Jazza, Gear Assassin Art, or other artists, especially the art channels that literally would just post like drawing timelines. Especially the artists that just drew drawing time-lapse. Oh my gosh. Especially the artists that drew drawing time-lapse videos. I started thinking about that again. I'm like, okay, what would I do? All right, animator would be super cool, but learning how to animate would be hard, so I would have to start learning how to draw on my own. And that's why I just started discovering about drawing from imagination. So I thought, become a mangaka or comic book artist and animator. Now, before I got to where I'm at now, I decided to go to college. And what did I do that for? Art school. This is the point in the arc where things kind of took a turn. So college didn't really work out. I learned that college was not for me. Specifically art school, not college. If I would have went for a different degree, I probably would have had a better time. I feel like a lot of people who've been there know what I'm talking about. Depending on the school you go to and how prestigious and how dedicated towards it it's going, it's either yay or nay. And even then, it still might be nay. It's more often than not nay. Now, after college, I decided, what am I gonna do? So I said, let me post YouTube. And you see how that went. Or really TikTok. And you know, I haven't really posted on either of those that much. TikTok more than YouTube for sure, but definitely not YouTube. So that's kind of where I'm at now. And it's kind of time to start now. You know, as an artist, as many of you know, or if you're not an artist, even still, if you have any aspirations that require a mental fortitude, you know that you're not always going to be at 100%. You have your good days and bad days, relationships, friendships, life in general, family, work, school, anything. And on top of that, being an artist requires a high bit of self-esteem, and you have to be realistic with yourself. You have to be able to tell yourself you're not always going to be the best at everything in every moment. You got to be able to tell, even though you want to, which isn't bad, but you got to be able to accept that you're definitely not going to be at the very start so great, so talented, and all, like, it's hard work and it's going to take time. The problem I think with most people is, though, they have the ability to grow faster, but our brains are limiting us on how fast we can grow because of all these high expectations, and that definitely happens with me, even being aware of it. So this video is more of a message to me to hold myself accountable to upload the rest of this year. I have big plans for this channel. I want to do so many things: gaming, so many different forms of art commentary. I'm not going to necessarily be commenting on my Picasso did this, and I'm not going to be doing that, but we'll see. This channel will be growing and changing as much as my logo and name have changed. So, alright, well, I hope the drawing time lapse in the back of the video was entertaining, so we can look back on it, notice how much I've grown, and how much other people have grown maybe. Maybe other people will be looking at like, oh, I used to think he was good, but now I'm better than him. I just hope it inspires people to keep going. Alright, that'll be the end of the video for this one. I'll be uploading more soon. I don't know what, but we'll see. See ya.